Lil Scrappy, a rapper and reality television personality who is well known, has always been quite candid about his personal life. His rocky relationship with his wife Bambi has been on display for the world to see throughout the years, attracting the interest of millions of followers. Their ups and downs have been chronicled on shows like Love and Hip Hop, Atlanta, which has given audiences a front row seat to their relationship drama. However, the issue became more emotional recently when Lil Scrappy, who was clearly upset, started crying and pleaded with Bambi to come back into his life. This moment was the result of years of hardship, emotional suffering, and a desperate request for reconciliation. In this creative exploration, we take a closer look at the emotional breakdown of Lil Scrappy. We try to comprehend the events and feelings that led to his heartbreaking plea to Bambi, as well as the significance of that moment. His breakdown is not only about a lost love or a shattered relationship, it also addresses the intricacies of celebrity, the vulnerability of men, and the conflict between one's personal life and public image. Let's take a look at what brought about that moment and how it might affect their future, as well as the emotional consequences of such a public display of weakness. The stress of living in the public eye. Lil Scrappy has been in the public glare for years because to his work. He was a well-known rapper in the early 2000s and was part of the Southern rap scene. His unique voice and style earned him both friends and critics. However, it was not only his music that kept him in the public eye, it was also his private life. His participation in Love and Hip Hop, Atlanta increased his visibility in pop culture even further. Scrappy, like many other famous people, had to deal with the challenges of being in a relationship while the entire world was watching. As a reality celebrity, you had to put every quarrel, every relationship problem, and every tear on display for the entire world to witness. Living under such great observation was extremely stressful, and it is simple to understand how it may have a negative impact on any relationship. A minor quarrel between two individuals can soon turn into a topic of gossip, with others sharing their ideas and judgments on how the couple should act or deal with their problems. In a circumstance like this, it is difficult to have private, intimate moments without an audience. Scrappy and Bambi's relationship has been far from flawless, much like any other celebrity couple's relationship. They have seen their fair share of highs and lows, including a number of public arguments and conflicts. However, in the past few months, it appeared that things had become more serious. Although it was obvious that they still loved each other, both of them were struggling with their own personal issues. Scrappy's breakdown was the breaking point. It was the result of years of mental tension, inner struggle, and emotions of vulnerability. The breakdown, an unfiltered display of emotion. Lil Scrappy's emotional plea to Bambi to come back into his life was a genuine and unedited moment. It was the type of vulnerability that most individuals, particularly males in the public glare, do not often display. Men are usually expected to be stoic, to conceal their sentiments, and to avoid expressing their emotions too openly. Men have frequently been taught by society that demonstrating weakness is an indication of failure or a lack of control. However, at that moment, Scrappy disregarded those expectations. He was just a man who was devastated and yearning for the lady he loved. He didn't care about seeming tough for the cameras or his admirers. Although it is simple to think that a breakdown like this is caused by a single event, it is actually the result of a succession of emotional problems that have built up over time. Lil Scrappy's life was already being scrutinized. He was affected by the financial demands he faced, the stress of maintaining a public image, and the burden of his responsibilities. When you factor in the difficulties he faced in his relationship with Bambi, who was also dealing with her own personal and emotional challenges, it becomes obvious why this moment was bound to happen. The collapse was not solely due to the fact that he missed Bambi, it was also a result of the understanding that his emotional base had been deteriorating. Scrappy's emotional openness at that moment was both terrible and powerful. In that one moment, it felt as though all the layers of pride, ego, and swagger that had encased him for so long had been completely removed. He was left alone, begging for his wife to return to him. The complicated nature of relationships in the public eye. The intricacy of relationships that are in the public view is not something that can be overstated. Being in a relationship while the world is watching might feel like being on a stage in many ways. Every move, word, and gesture is examined, analyzed, and criticized. This produces a level of pressure that would be too much for most individuals to handle. It can be much more difficult for two individuals to work through their personal problems when the entire world is watching. Scrappy and Bambi have always had a relationship that is marked by both passion and tension. There were times of happiness and love, but there were also periods of disappointment and frustration. When things are going well, they are going really well, but when things are going poorly, it feels like the whole world is watching them fall apart. Scrappy's meltdown was a demonstration of how challenging it can be to handle such personal problems when you are always being observed by the public. In addition, Scrappy's emotional appeal shows how vulnerable many men are in relationships. People often assume that males do not cry or show strong feelings when they are in pain. Scrappy's moment of weeping out for his wife, on the other hand, demonstrates that guys may also feel intense emotional sorrow. This vulnerability is frequently ignored or disregarded, although it is a crucial component of comprehending the intricacies of relationships. Men also require a secure environment, in which they may express their emotions without the fear of being judged or made fun of. The importance of love and forgiveness. Lil Scrappy's meltdown was, at its heart, a moment of love. Underneath all of the sorrow and heartache, there was a desperate request for reconciliation. Although it may be tempting to interpret his tears as a sign of weakness, they were actually a demonstration of his love and a powerful need to restore what had been lost. At that moment, Scrappy was not just asking for forgiveness, he was also trying to get back something he thought was worth fighting for. It is not easy to reconcile in any relationship, but it is extremely difficult in a public relationship like theirs. Both sides must acknowledge their own mistakes, apologize for them, and be willing to go forward together. Scrappy probably came to the conclusion that he could not accomplish this by himself at this point. He required Bambi not only for the love and company she offered, but also for the emotional support and stability she supplied. Love is complicated, and at times it necessitates being vulnerable. This was a crucial moment for Scrappy, as he permitted himself to be vulnerable in a way that most guys are not usually encouraged to do. It serves as a reminder that love is not only about big actions or pronouncements, it is also about being there for one another, even when things are tough or painful. Looking ahead, what lies ahead for Lil Scrappy and Bambi? Scrappy is sitting in front of the cameras, crying and pleading with Bambi to come back. The future of their relationship is uncertain. Will Bambi decide to forgive him and take him back? Or will they find it too challenging to move on from the emotional wounds they carry from their past? There are no simple solutions. Both people in a relationship must be completely committed to the process of healing, especially in relationships that have been challenged by time, fame, and personal challenges. Scrappy's breakdown was a moment of emotional honesty, but it is vital to realize that it takes more than just words to rebuild a relationship. It requires time, effort, and a dedication to personal development. This encounter could have been the wake-up call that Scrappy needed to understand how much he valued his relationship with Bambi. It could also be a lesson in humility and being truthful with your feelings. It serves as a reminder that even if someone seems strong on the outside, they can still experience deep sadness and a desire for connection on the inside. It is unclear whether or not Bambi will decide to go back to his previous life. However, Scrappy's moment of weakness has started a discussion about love, vulnerability, and the pressures of being in the public eye. This is a moment that will resonate with many people, not only because it is a reality television drama, but also because it addresses the fundamental truths about relationships and the intricacies of love. Final thoughts. Lil Scrappy's dramatic breakdown, and his impassioned plea for Bambi to come back into his life, was more than simply a moment on a reality television show. It was an examination of vulnerability, love, and the difficulties of managing a relationship in the public eye. Scrappy was suffering a lot of anguish, and this moment was a genuine representation of his emotions and the depth of his feelings. It served as a reminder that love can break even the strongest people, and that sometimes the most courageous thing a person can do is to seek for help. Ultimately, we cannot predict what will happen to Lil Scrappy and Bambi in the future, but we do know that their journey is far from finished. Their journey, like many partnerships, is one of growth, learning, and emotional discovery. Regardless of whether or not they make amends, their narrative demonstrates the strength of love, the value of being vulnerable, and the significance of being able to express one's actual feelings, even in the most public of situations.